Somewhere in the Sierra Madre Mountains, right now, men are training for war. Not government soldiers, not police, but cartel recruits. They run drills before sunrise in terrain so remote that no signal reaches in or out. They learn to shoot, to move, to disappear. They are being turned into something the Sinaloa Cartel needs more than any drug shipment on Earth. These are the secret training camps of the Sinaloa Cartel. Almost nobody outside the intelligence community knows what really happens inside them. We know they exist. DEA files confirm it. Federal court testimony describes them in detail. Former operatives have talked about them under oath in American courtrooms. But the full picture, who built these camps, how they work, what they produce, and why law enforcement has spent years trying to shut them down without success. That story has never been told the way it deserves to be told. This is not a militia operating out of some abandoned warehouse. What the Sinaloa Cartel constructed in the mountains of northern Mexico is a military training system, a pipeline that takes young men from desperate rural communities and produces something that rivals professionally trained soldiers. The curriculum is real, the instructors are real, the weapons are real. The output of this system has been visible on the streets of Mexico and inside courtrooms in the United States for over a decade. The question nobody has properly answered is how? How did a drug trafficking organization build something like this? Who taught them? And why, after everything law enforcement has thrown at it, does the system keep running? The Sinaloa Cartel did not wake up one morning and decide to build a private army. It happened because they had no choice. Go back to the late 1990s and the early 2000s. El Chapo is expanding faster than any cartel in Mexican history. New territories, new border crossings, new wars with organizations that had controlled those routes for decades. The Arellano Felix brothers in Tijuana, the Gulf Cartel pushing from the east, rival after rival willing to fight back hard. And what El Chapo had at the time was not enough to win those wars cleanly. He had gunmen, loyal, ruthless, willing to die. But loyalty and willingness are not tactics. They are not training. And in a war fought across mountain ranges and border cities, raw aggression alone gets you killed. The cartel needed something different, and the Mexican government handed it to them without realizing it. Through the early 2000s, the Mexican military was losing soldiers at a rate nobody wanted to talk about publicly, not to combat, to the cartels. Enlisted men were walking off base and crossing over. The pay gap was not small. A trained Mexican soldier earned poverty wages. The cartel offered 10 times that and more. So men left. And not just privates. The defections that changed everything came from GAFE, the Grupo Aeromóvil de Fuerzas Especiales, the most elite special operations unit the Mexican army had. Men trained in the United States. Men who understood weapons, tactics, surveillance, counter-surveillance, and how to build a fighting force from scratch. When they crossed over, they did not just bring guns. They brought an entire system of knowledge, and the Sinaloa Cartel, always the most calculated organization in the room, knew exactly what to do with it. What they built with that knowledge is where this story gets dark, and that is exactly where we are going next. From the outside, the camps look like nothing. That is the point. They are hidden inside working ranches spread across the Sierra Madre, cattle operations, agricultural properties, ordinary mountain settlements that give aerial surveillance nothing to flag, no fences, no military footprint, just land, trees, and altitude. By the time you realize what you are looking at, you are already inside it. Recruits arrive before dawn. The days begin with physical drills, the same conditioning routines used by the Mexican military, because the instructors came directly from that force. Weapons training follows. And this is not basic. Former operatives who testified in U.S. federal courts described instruction covering pistols, assault rifles, belt-fed machine guns, sniper positioning, and rocket-propelled grenades. The cartel is not training men to stand on a corner. It is training men to fight a war. Tactical movement is a core part of the curriculum. Ambush formation, defensive perimeter setup, vehicle interdiction, how to move through terrain without being detected, how to identify a surveillance operation before it identifies you. Counter-surveillance is taught with the same seriousness as weapons handling because getting caught is the only outcome the cartel cannot absorb. Communication. Discipline runs through everything. Recruits learn early that electronics get people killed. They learn how to pass information without creating a signal. They learn how to operate inside a structure where most people only know their immediate role and nothing above it. Compartmentalization is not just policy, it is survival. The most capable recruits do not stay in the general pool for long. They get filtered out and pulled towards something more specialized. What that specialization looks like is something that changes the scale of this story completely. The cartel is watching from the first day. Who moves well? Who follows instruction without hesitation? Who stays calm under pressure? The ones who stand out get pulled into something more focused, more dangerous. In some cases, they become more valuable to the organization than any enforcer with a rifle. The enforcement track produces the men most people associate with cartel violence. Dedicated security units built around the most capable graduates of the training system. Los Antrax, the feared protection detail connected to the Chapitos, drew directly from this pipeline. These were not street recruits handed a gun and pointed at a target. They were trained operatives, men who could coordinate across a city, hold a position under military pressure, and move with the kind of discipline that shocked government forces in Culiacan in 2019. That footage of an entire city locked down in under 2 hours was not an accident. It was the output of a system that had been running for years. But here is where most people stop looking, and where the real scale of this becomes clear. The cartel identified early that fentanyl production required a completely different kind of recruit, not a fighter, a technician, someone with enough education to follow exact chemical processes without deviation. So they built a separate pipeline. Young men and women with chemistry backgrounds, sometimes pulled from universities, trained in clandestine labs on cartel-controlled territory with the precision of a pharmaceutical operation. The product coming out of those labs is now responsible for over 70,000 American deaths every single year. Combat soldiers, chemical technicians, surveillance operators. The system produces all of it, and what makes it almost impossible to stop is something most people have never considered. The cartel does not need the camps to keep running forever. It just needs them to run long enough to replace whatever it loses. Every time Mexican security forces or DEA-backed operations take out a trained cartel operative, the pipeline produces another one. The recruitment pool never empties because the economic reality in the communities surrounding the Sierra Madre never changes. A young man from a rural Sinaloa village with no school nearby, no job market, and no government presence in his entire life is always going to be a candidate. The cartel is not forcing these men in at gunpoint. It is making an offer that nothing legitimate can match, and that offer has been on the table for decades. But there is another layer to this that law enforcement has openly struggled with. Mexican prisons have become part of the system. Cartel members arrested during operations serve time alongside other cartel members. They exchange knowledge, they build new networks, they come out with stronger connections and in some cases more specialized skills than they went in with. The camps feed the prisons feed the camps. The cycle does not break. The DEA understands this. Mexican military intelligence understands this, and yet the camps are still running. The pipeline is still producing. Dismantling a training system embedded inside a population that depends on the cartel for basic survival is not a military problem with a military solution. It is something much harder than that. Somewhere in the Sierra Madre right now, there are men running drills before sunrise. They are learning to shoot, to move, to disappear. They are being shaped into exactly what the Sinaloa Cartel needs them to be. The camps are not a secret because nobody knows about them. They are a secret because knowing about them and stopping them are two very different things.